everyone, it's Carolyn here to share more channeled messages. So today we're going to do something different. I've been working with Jennifer for probably a couple of years now, and she and I have decided to start to come together in some channeled videos. You've actually heard from her on audio on some of my, I think I've done one or two where I've shared her actual sessions with her consent, obviously. We tend to just say work at a really different level together, bringing through information that we both align with, but we speak about it differently. So it's really interesting every time we have a session together. But we thought it'd be really fun to come together and have a conversation about whatever comes through. Well, what's interesting is what came through is what is occurring from Lionsgate, all right, that we had last weekend, because this should be published on the Thursday after Lionsgate. Because remember, it's not just that day something happens. It's a start of something happening, all right? The energetics and what they're showing me, again, they're showing this to me, but I explained this in the video. They're showing a picture of like water being started to be poured. So on Lionsgate New Moon, the pouring starts and it just starts flowing, and it really looks like oil. It's very beautiful. Flowing out through the weeks and then the months to come for the rest of the year. So it's new energies coming in. And what we're talking about here is what that all means. And it's fascinating what comes through. It's actually about an hour long. So what I would say to you is, don't miss out on any of it, but just take your time with it. And I think you'll enjoy us because this is not audio. We actually have a video of the two of us talking. And channeling and having this conversation. We're going to do more of these too. I think you'll really enjoy hearing from her. And with that, you're going to get to hear Jennifer and myself talk about the energetics that have come in, the shift and change that we're seeing happen now, moving out of Lionsgate through the rest of the year. Some of the pieces we'll hit on are divine feminine and divine masculine alignment. We're also talking about the ego and how that mixes in. We're going to talk about Christos and Sophia, if you've never heard that before, because I don't use those terms that much. We're going to talk about that alignment there. And this all ties together. We're going to talk about Christ consciousness. We're going to talk about, obviously, the energetics behind all of this, how it affects us individually, how it's affecting the collective, and what it means for us in 3D, and what we're going to start seeing. We do feel things are going to start happening much faster. Again, this is starting out of the Lionsgate point that we had on New Moon, actually on the 8th, just this past Sunday, and moving forward. So again, remember, it's not a point in time, just something happens and it's done. This is energy that's flowing out and now affecting the rest of our journey forward. So I hope you enjoy this today. Jennifer's information, I'm going to have a couple sentences on her below in the description box. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel. I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these differing channels for you, typically from the light keepers, but sometimes from some of my colleagues and friends, so that you can add more pieces of the puzzle to your own life journey. So I hope you enjoy this today. We're just going to get going right into this, and I'm going to finish up with a few comments at the end.
There seems to be so much happening now. And even in just this last 24 hours for me, there is so much clearing. Wow.
In fact, I've been, a couple of my clients, actually, one of them texted, so he wrote me this morning and he's like, oh my God, what happened in the last day or two? And I'm like, oh, you too? And so, yes, lots going on. He says, I feel so much better today though.
Yes.
So you noticed that, well, we talked yesterday, but so
it was massive. This just last night and this morning. I mean, these are very interesting shifts. They're not like a little bit of maybe something typical. These are like, they almost feel like metal framework being moved through my, energetic field. It's very different than anything I felt before. It's very structural, but it's, and it happens very quickly too. It's just so different than anything I've ever experienced. Sometimes you get headaches or nauseous or have these issues. This is not like that. This is actually like the physical body is moving through either space and time kind of, or huge structures are moving through the vessel. Okay. It's really amazing.
So it's interesting you say that, and I want to kind of hear more about that, because what's happened with me, and I know we kind of all experience these things somewhat, like either very emotionally or very physically, you know, a little bit different. I feel like, okay, how do I want to explain this? Literally in the last 2 days, the things in my personal world that were, I'll just say, more emotional for me, or more still the ego part is there, all of a sudden feels like, and when you said structurally, it feels like a structure moved out of me, like it's further away now. And I
Yes.
don't have that, and it's happened over the last day, that reaction that I normally have to what is currently going on in this situation. It's not I have none of the, it's that ego stuff that we do to ourselves that causes the angst, causes the worry, causes the fret. It's all just like
Yes.
shifted, like structurally, like you said, it feels like it came out
Yeah.
of me.
It's like what you were saying, you know, these kind of knee-jerk responses that we have as we've gone through our life, and we form beliefs. And so you're almost just, you see something and you don't even really think about it. It's just a reaction that you have. That seems to be gone completely.
Yeah.
So for me, and so I would notice something that has happened, you know, happens regularly in my life, but now it's almost like I'm seeing it for the first time.
Yes. And does it feel more like the observer, like being like
Yes.
you're able to, yes, and less
Yes.
reactive to it, correct?
Right. So I remember seeing this before from the memory standpoint, but the visceral memory is not reacting in the same way. So it's almost like I'm viewing what I you know, I recognize, but the body, I'm being able to choose now in this time how it's going to interplay with my body, or react with my, you know, with my, how I'm going to react to it, or
Yeah.
what it's going to actually, how it's going to affect me. So it's like having a clean slate, but yet I'm in a familiar setting.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because yesterday I was not in a great place for most of the day. And two of my other friends said, we're really going through something too, but don't understand it. So what I had forgotten is that for me, when this happens, and I think this is helpful for most people, is I had started walking, like an hour and a half walk in the wintertime and during COVID and all of that. And what I didn't realize is how much that helps me clear all of that, like literally getting out, taking the walk. I felt it just lift off of me. I could tell through my walk. And then when I got home, I was like a different person. It's like it all, okay, like I just said, structurally shifted out of me.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like it transmuted out of me by
Yes.
being in nature.
Through
Oh,
motion. Yes. Through motion. They tell me this. I've heard this before. Through motion, it's a layer of transmutation. It's not the only layer, but it is a layer.
yes.
So, especially when it starts to affect you on a physical, like you're starting to feel it in your physical body in some way, at that layer, the transmutation process is assisted by motion. So, you know, that's
That's
kind of
why
like
they
the
want us
last
to
thing
walk.
yes, so
That's
they want
why
us to move. Yeah, and they told me it doesn't have to be like a big deal. It can be, you can do like a few poses of yoga. It's no big
yes,
deal. Just move your body,
yes,
right?
yes.
So I think you have to actually utilize the structure, move your structure. It helps to transmute out of
Yep.
that
You know
layer.
what I just heard? I just heard cellular activity. So what they're showing me in my mind's eye is, as you're talking about this, they're showing the cells as you're doing that activity starting to interact more with each other. It's almost like it's a little earthquake in each of them, and it shakes it out. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
But
Yeah.
I tell you this, I think, you know, heading into this weekend and whenever this goes live, because I'm thinking probably next week sometime is
Okay.
when I'll put this out there, because I just put one out 2 days ago. I will
I haven't
put
seen
that
that
up
one.
probably in another week, but we will have had gone through Lion's Gate and the new
Yes.
moon. But we are on Friday before that. And I
Yes.
think what we're feeling is this intensity of the weekend's energies. They just said the precursor to. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, yes, it is. Because there's a I've told you I'm the same way as you. I don't really put a whole lot of stock in. I don't watch astrological events, but I have realized certain energies that will come into my awareness will present themselves as a planet or a star. So it's almost like they're introducing themselves. This is my energy. So when I see that, I recognize, okay, you are coming to me as like the energy of the sun, or the Sirius B, the star behind the sun, or so they kind of present themselves to me in this way. Now, that being said, this Lion's Gate is a alignment of about 4 energies that have been heavily active in my awareness in the last few months.
Okay, well, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So I wasn't aware of that. I heard something this morning when I was listening to it. I'm like, wow, okay. So all of these that have been the primary communicators within my experience these last few months are all now lining up perfectly, and it's happening through the Lionsgate portal. So,
Okay.
and it has something to do with, about 4 months ago, you and I had a session, I think, you utilized it in one of your videos about the divine masculine and feminine.
Right.
And, these that we even talked about in that video, how things kind of happen a few months before they start to unroll. And so this is actually the alignment of the star that represents the Christos energy and the core of Gaia, which is Sophia. Okay. So this is the first and divine alignment of the first twin flames ever. And it's happening in this weekend.
Okay. So this is so interesting because I think this links to the video I did. And of course they give different metaphors. So what they showed this week that I put out yesterday is I had a channel. It was, anyway, I have a channel that I did, but the first part was about Lionsgate and the new moon. And they showed a new visual because it's been a continuing journey or story of how we're traveling through this. They showed us stepping up and they described it as, how you watch the Oscars or the Grammys and they have all these performances and they go up on the stage and then the lights on the steps light up, right?
Yes.
They said, yeah, we're going up that, but this is the first step up from the plateau of light that we're on, but we're going up to this next step and the light goes on. And that I just got connected to, they said what you just said about the Christos energy. So you're saying this is the first entry into that?
It's the first alignment. It's the alignment of these. Okay. So it's something about we're bypassing we're like the step above the sun moon. Okay. Now we're going into the next level up of that, or actually it might be a few more levels up. I'm not sure, but it's the center of the crystalline core of Gaia, Sophia, and I believe it's Sirius B. I'm not sure, the super bright white star that is the Christos. That's supposed to be the origin, I believe, of Christos. So those two are in alignment. They're along with 4, in a row. Now, I don't know if you remember as well, but we discussed how I was having this kind of pseudo feeling, kind of pregnancy, phantom pregnancy kind of thing. Yes. And I discussed it with my team, okay, what's going on here? And they were giving me metaphors of, you're birthing the new earth, you're birthing the new humanity, this type of thing. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. But in this, I'd seen, and something there was that Gaia almost came up into my stomach, like he would be and I had saw the sun, and then the sun kind of got pushed to the side, and this huge, bright white light was behind it. And that white light funneled through the top of my head and met the earth inside my body. And they met together. Their energies merged. I felt the merging and swirling. Okay. So I was in meditation, and when these two energetic events happened within my physical body. So come to find out that that bright white light is the Sirius gateway or the Sirius star that is in alignment that's coming up now. So I think the precursor, the conversation that we had, and then that kind of vision that they showed me is the precursor to this alignment that's happening
It's happening this weekend. I want to go. So you and I, just so our audience knows, we get similar information, but we get it differently. We see it differently. You know what I'm saying? The metaphors they use, so what we've just said here then is the alignment that you just described is happening this weekend, right? So, so you mentioned earlier something about Sophia, and then you said the twin flame. Can you go back to that and tie that into this? Like, what are you talking about there?
So in the energy of Sophia Christos is the original twins.
Yeah. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
And Sophia and Christos is Sophia is part of Gaia. You know, she is the embodiment of Gaia. And Christos, Sophia came here into this particular embodiment without her masculine. So we used a lot of different words like the second coming of Christ, or Christ, this type of thing. That's actually the Christ consciousness energy, the Christos energy, which is her sacred masculine counter. And I believe that his energy is represented in that very, very bright white light star that I see from Sirius B.
That's the alignment.
Yes.
Okay, wait. So what I'm getting here, help me if this is what you're explaining, which you're probably getting ready to explain, but
it's okay.
Is this in 3D then, the continued assistance of alignment with the twin flame couples in 3D human form? The continued, that's what I'm getting, and I have super chills. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay, so continue on. I'm so curious about this.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's really amazing in a way, because the twin flame energy is actually it's a balanced energy for creation. So much of the distortion and some of the I should say, like everything that we might feel is out of alignment. Like, you and I speak a lot about, we just know. We don't know how we know, but we just know, as our divine selves know, this is not playing out the way that it was intended to be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so this is something to do with the energies not being in alignment when some of the creations were, happen in this realm.
Yes, because the twins were not supposed to have as much trouble coming together physically, is what I'm getting, in 3D.
Yes.
Is that what you receive as well?
Yes, and I think it has to do with the fact that Sophia entered without her counter. Okay. So it started this way, and now it's almost in a phase of it's like it's being corrected. So but yes, I think that is a lot of the difficulty we feel with balancing our own internal masculine feminine, where I think it might be one of the prime directives for us when we came here as masters, to try to assist in this very thing and getting these two back together and in balance, so this can occur.
Oh, I have so much energy around this, because what I'm also picking up is that, okay, so the twins are the forerunner to, like, leading the way. Those who are of the twins are leading the way to the divine feminine masculine fully coming back together in each of us. Does that make sense? Like, yes. The energetic. Yes. So the twins, I have so many chills. So like, as twin flames come together, those who are of twin flame pairings in 3D in this lifetime start building, or they just said opening a new gateway to, then everybody else starts coming through, but it's the balancing out then of the feminine masculine. That's what you're getting to?
Yes. And we've had a struggle with this, and there's been a lot of distortion, but that is a representation. The micro is the macro. That is a representation of the difficulty and the distortion that occurred in the original creation event. So because they weren't together or aligned. So we are kind of retrofitting, if you know, for lack of a better word, we're retrofitting the divine masculine feminine creation as being in alignment when they're doing this creation here.
Yep.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, and those of the twins, as they come together, that's a increased powerful energy that as they're together, what they're showing me is it's like a funnel. The twins go first, right? And they open this gateway up because they're coming together in alignment and they're coming together in union. And so they bring that energy in for the rest of the collective. I have so many chills. And then the collective starts flowing through this too. And they're now more easily able to come into balance with their feminine masculine because like they've led the way. Again, like another metaphor they use for these kinds of things is like slashing the forest and getting a pathway made. And this one, they're showing like this light gateway opening up, like the twins going. So what you're saying is this weekend event, and granted, we're publishing this afterwards, which will be neat because this energy actually flows from this point in time forward.
Yes.
So this will be great to have it after we've had this weekend event. But this weekend event is kind of they just said linchpin, like energy, right?
Yes.
Or it aligns.
Yes. See, so I think, I kind of think of the energies coming together, the masculine and feminine energies as the setting the platform, allowing for the landscape and maybe the energies that are following behind are more of the seeds. So it's like having the proper grounds to plant.
That's a great metaphor.
So we have a merging of the divine masculine and feminine in a setting where creation can be perfectly balanced, right?
Yes.
So you have the blueprint and then you have the energy behind or pushing through the blueprint as being in balance. So you're not having these distortions going on. And then once that is in balance, then the seeds can all be planted within that for,
I love that metaphor. I love that. That makes so much sense. It's like that. Yes. Yep. Oh, and you know what they just said? It's like the twin flames component of that you're talking about, the foundation. It's like it's the compost, the really rich compost that is put in the garden, and then the seeds get planted, and then just go, So
yes, right.
Yeah.
Because when it's out of balance, I've actually personally had this manifest into my experience. My garden, I have a garden outside, the vegetable garden. 3 years ago, I couldn't give it away fast enough. I was giving them to my mailman, to the neighbors. I have so much stuff. I was making pickle relish. I didn't even know what to do with all this stuff, right? And so, and it's not a huge garden. It's just a regular sized garden. But the last 2 years, weird stuff started to happen. And then I had like things growing that I never planted. I didn't know where they came from or why they were in my garden. I had the fruit was growing and they were distorted, it wasn't producing as much.
With all energetics.
Yes, it was. And it was a perfect representation of how the soil was not in balance. And look what it gave you.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. So that's actually played out in this energy. And I'm super energetically sensitive, I've come to discover. So I can feel when I'm in different planes of reality, maybe is the only way I can describe. I can tell the difference of the energetic plane of existence I was in when my garden was doing beautifully, and then moving through these other ones. And it was representative. I could see what I was feeling being represented in actually the way the food was growing.
Yes.
And it was rotting faster. It was going bad. On the vine still, it was going bad sometimes. It was just very, very interesting to watch this.
That's fascinating. You can find that, because that makes so much sense. You can find that connection into what you're growing to what's actually going on in the land, or just energetically speaking.
Yes.
What I'm getting here as we're talking to is this alignment this weekend, right? Is what we would call it, right? Alignment.
Yes.
Okay. so what they're showing it is it like flowing out of a pitcher this weekend
Mhm.
and flowing out into the next weeks, which is why I think too, they're just now starting to talk. Well, they talked about in my channels that I get June, July, and August being super powerful months of shift and change and a lot of, internal change and shift. And then what they're talking about now, they're just starting to show September through December, but it's going to be
Mhm.
completely different. But I think it's the what I'm picking up is from this flow of this new energy. Okay, so you brought in the twin part, this alignment, as they start to individually align and come together, it offers others the opportunity to align with their divine feminine masculine, because it's all about balance, right? That's what we're missing. We're having to get back
Yes.
into this balance to be able to continue to ascend and do all the other things
Mhm.
we do. But point is being able to then start manifesting out of all of that. Because,
Yes.
hey, here's what they're saying. So I know we can manifest day to day kind of things, but I think what I'm getting now, and I want to see what you think about this, is okay, manifestation will move off at a fast pace after this because feminine and masculine are becoming more in balance, and because of what you just talked
Yeah.
about with the twin piece, that energetic part, that opens the gateway, and you got to
Mhm.
have that balance
Oh,
before you
yes.
can manifest the new earth.
Yes, the balance is imperative to creation. The balance of the masculine feminine energy together, there is a component of the highly creative idea balanced with the builder. So the two out of balance, it's not you're never going to get what you can get together. You know what I mean? It's they're the yin to the yang. You know what I mean? It's the two have to be together in order to um, manifest within the intent, I think. So you have it in distortion, you're going to get a distorted version of like what we feel like we're living in.
And just
A
like you got with your vegetables, right?
absolutely distorted version of the dream, right? You and I have said this before, this is not the dream. We're not living in this was not the dream. So it wasn't able, it was thrown on imbalanced soil, if you want to say it that way. And so the masculine and feminine are the perfect balance for creation. That is how that actually occurs. So it will manifestation will be I think we will, even if we want to put it into the concept of time, I do think that this is going to um, somewhat disintegrate time,
Yes.
but it's going to, for lack of a better way, it's going to speed this up quite a bit
Yes.
because that is the entire block right there, right? That those two aren't aligned.
So they're showing this to me as you're talking, because you know how this happens. Like you'll talk and I get all these visuals, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so they're showing, and I think this is what you saw, this super bright light in the background aligning. Is that the male? Is that what you're showing? The Christ?
The Christos is a very, 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 very white, bright light. Yeah.
And they're showing it coming in. I don't know if this makes sense or why they're showing this coming in from behind and
Yes.
aligning. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And aligning, God, it's like an explosive light that then happens.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
So I wonder, if when we pull that back down into 3D human life,
Mhm.
what that's going to start to look like. Because of course
Yeah.
this has been such an eternal journey and feeling and
Mhm.
clearing and all of this, like we just got done talking about how manifestation will happen faster. And to your point, I was also getting that things are going to start happening more rapidly, but it never came through like we're talking about it now, like with the,
Yes. Yes. No, this was the way I saw it. There was an alignment with, how do I say this? Okay, so I think Sirius B also might be the model of the new, what we're calling New Earth.
okay.
It also, I think that the sun and the moon, that we see this white light. Now, the white light that I see is 1,000 times brighter than our sun, but it's almost like it's further away. So the sun gets in front of it, just like the moon gets in front of the sun. The sun's bigger than the moon, but it blocks the light of the, right? You know what I'm saying? I think that's the right way. It's the same idea. So it's almost as if the sun is getting, the light is getting past the sun to make the alignment.
Oh, see, that's what I'm seeing then. You're talking
Yes.
the white, bright light through the sun, because I was seeing this. Okay, that makes sense, because I was seeing the sun. And I kept thinking, why am I seeing the sun? So I didn't even mention that. But that's exactly right, this new white light. Oh,
Yes.
coming through the sun to send us codes. Is that right? Are you getting
I believe so. Yeah, and there's some aspect of this story, you know, metaphoric or not, that Sophia being here without her masculine, she partnered with a star here that we know as our sun.
Oh, sure.
Okay. But that was because she was in the absence of, and she had just, they said something about this star had witnessed what had just happened. And there was a, you know, there was a, like almost an unfortunate event that went on. This particular star witnessed it and saw what had happened, what she did, how she embodied, you know, Gaia, and then partnered with her. But it's Christos is her twin, but the sun partnered with her as a supportive energy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And for anybody that might be watching that doesn't understand, I mean, our planets have a consciousness. They are life living. I mean, I think a lot of people understand that, but this is, you know, they are beings, life.
They are very much so.
The consciousness. So
yeah.
That's why I see this aligns with what you're talking about. That's why I'm seeing this bright light coming in, and here's our sun, and it's like it shine. Are you getting like, it almost is like they're trying to show the sun being somewhat transparent, and that light starts to come through, it'll
go through. It can go through the sun, and I think it can even activate some of these massive flares that it's blasting. Now mine actually saw it, not like resentfully or anything, but I actually saw them push the sun to the side. I think they were trying to show me where it was coming from in my visual. They pushed the sun to the side so I could see where the white light was coming from.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're actually moving the sun out of the way so it can get a direct hit, or if it's just so strong it's coming now through the sun because the sun is in partnership with Sophia, and that's a way to get it through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I feel that. I feel like an integration of, and then a processing out. So I am getting, and this is now going to tie to something else, great shift and change in the times to come. And I feel like it's after this event this year. This seems like a very important event this weekend, which I kind of knew it was, but I never thought of it until today. And we're talking it now. I feel like it feels like it's even more important than I understood previously. What another couple that I know who they do this work too brought through, and I used to work with them. They it's Roxy and Pete. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but anyway, they work with the Galactics. She actually, after I got done with my video, I somehow came across her recent channel in the last few days, and she was talking about how the Galactics are coming in to bring in, and I think this is linked to bring in massive new energies into our state of, they just said state of grace. Okay. Well, yeah, state of grace. So the Galactics are shooting in new energy, and I have a feeling, okay, they just said assistance of. Does that make sense that would be it feels like a combined kind of.
Yes. And there's something interesting. You said state of grace, and I immediately pulled the day out of time. It's the pause. And I wonder if that's what they're calling it. It's almost like we moved into this pause, where the state of grace, where we're just getting this energy's coming in to do these massive, I guess, we could probably call them corrections,
right?
Alignments, and getting us balanced back out correctly. But it's that sounds like state of grace. You know, you're getting like a divine, almost like a dispensation of a state of grace.
Totally.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
like
and
divine intervention, like a divine
Yeah.
gift, or yes. And so what we're saying here then is all of this then assists us in coming back into balance
Yes,
with our masculine feminine,
absolutely.
which also aligns with, how do I want to say this? They're bringing in the ego now. Okay. Like okay, let's see what we get here. When that alignment, that pure alignment happens,
Mm-hmm.
they just said there's really no place for the ego.
Yes. Yes.
Like in the way we see it today, right?
Yes. Yes. No, that does make sense. Mm-hmm.
I think this is that's, I told you the step up is what I saw, that light step up. We haven't seen any steps like this in my channels that I've done, because it's kind of a running story, running theme. But it feels to me like this is moving us into just massive shift and change the rest of the year. Are you like?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is the this is the catalyst. I think the event that it might even be the event. That's words just came out of my mouth, not even thinking about that, but it might be that very thing that we are calling the event. It's the game changer,
Yes.
and it is the catalyst event that we need to bring us back into a place where we can actually create correctly. You know what I mean?
Yes. And what better opportunity than now, when we look at the 3D world and where we are in the hot mess we're in. But what I'm picking up too, okay, so as this starts to happen and these energies come in and we start getting more in that alignment, okay, I just heard hissy fit. There's going to be it's just going to be more intense. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. That's funny. You know how you tell me sometimes you'll say the last hurrah.
Yeah.
The last hurrah. Yes, I think that is correct. It's a because it's a slipping away of the playground that the ego uses. The ego plays in. Now, I don't always like to vilify the idea of the ego, because it's somewhat of a survival energy. So we survived, right? So that it did something for us, but it is not intended to be this way. And we're not in a survival game,
No.
So if to be able to survive in something that is unnatural, you survive not because you want to be there, because you find yourself there almost. Exactly. So as the divine, the intention, the true nature of our beings, of our energy, of our origins come into balance, that will not be needed. Now, the unplugging of it or the end of the ego experience, it might be difficult for some, because there are some that are completely entrenched in survival and in their ego, and they don't know who they are without their ego.
Right.
Because they've never really allowed themselves to get in touch with their soul.
Which is why we're seeing the inflaming of so much out there in the collective, like it's being accentuated now, because these energies coming in are helping, I don't want to say push out the ego, but shift and change these divine feminine and masculine energies coming into balance. And those that are in that deep state of living straight from their ego, it's just like screaming wildly.
Yes, absolutely. And it will be tough, because it will be, a form of, they'll feel like they're losing their identity, but truly what they're doing is they'll be finding their identity, right? They're just not aware yet that that's what's happening. So it'll be almost a struggle to survive,
Yes.
To the end.
I just heard the words of tearing apart from the inside out, like the inner struggle, as we go through the awakening journey, that's happening to us. And we know that, and we understand it because we're awake to understand that. And we learn that as we go. Those who chose not to wake up, that are going through it, what I'm getting is it's even an acting out of it, or can be. It's a more roiling, boiling is what they just said, because there's not the body and the mind, or excuse me, the body and the soul understand what's going on, but the human mind doesn't. So once the human mind can wrap around, because you know how it is when in the wake, and when you learn something, you go, oh, that's this, and then you start putting it all together.
Absolutely.
They don't have that. So that's where we get extreme.
It's the connection that we've made, the relationship that we have cultivated with our higher self. We've allowed more of our higher self to come in, and in a way, it's the higher self almost parenting us. And so as these things are occurring, we have that perspective. We've allowed that to meld with us in a way that we can soothe ourselves. We can cope with what is happening because we have an understanding.
Yes.
And we can see and observe it as almost in a childlike behavior, because there's not a lack of understanding. But yet we're receiving that understanding. When you see others, they don't have their parent with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're just freaking out. They have no, but as this fades away, it will allow them to start introducing themselves to their higher, they're maybe not aware of it.
Yep. I'm hearing it's acting like a petulant 2-year-old, like one that just, you can't control at all because it just has no understanding. You cannot reason with it. Yep. Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes that's the reason why some of these interventions are necessary, because I see certain types of energy where, as I look at, like, as in the waking up process, I think they don't even have the tools that they need to get out of that. You know what I mean? It's there's certain levels of unconsciousness that it's asking too much for them to pull themselves out of it, right? It's just they're not set up to succeed. They don't have what they need to even pull themselves out of it. So when some of these gifted energies or divine dispensations come in, I'm like, I'm all completely on board with this. I don't have that, everybody needs to do their work and figure it out. And there's some levels of unconsciousness that it's unfair, it's unreasonable to even ask that of them. Exactly. So there does need to be an intervention, I believe.
Which is why I think we have those on occasion to assist us forward collectively, because we're not all at that point to be able to, I guess I'll just say, understand it on our own.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think that might be what we're doing, because many of us feel sometimes that, I'm not the only one. I have several people that have awakened, that are in this kind of energy. We feel like we are awakened so much further than some of the energies we're sitting in.
Yes.
And we're like, what's happening? Yeah. And sometimes it's frustrating. It's hard to be here because, okay, I'm past this almost, in your own mind, you're thinking, I'm thinking what you said about, the energies that are coming in now, the divine dispensations that are coming in now, I think that we are their only entry point.
Right.
If we're not here, they have no way in.
Exactly. And then we can't, there's nowhere to get it then out to the rest of the collective.
Yes.
Because then it exudes through our light body, through our light that we offer. Correct?
Yeah. And just even the access point for the higher light to come in and do this divine dispensations to activation, some of these, massive amounts of energies that are pouring in now. Yep. They have no access point if they don't have an awakened soul who is consciously and efforting to stay in connection to their higher, right? So if there aren't enough of us sitting in this type of energy, they have no way in.
Yep.
So that might be where a lot of our frustration. I know a lot of us are like, come on, this log. What am I doing here? I say that often. What am I doing here?
I have found that with myself this year. So we were talking about the energies are being able to come into us, and those who are in that ego state, it's like they're closed off. It's like and we know in the awakening process our chakra system starts to open up. We become more open to the light. Our crown opens. We begin taking in so much, and we start feeling it. And there was something we were talking about with regard
You know, when you said that, they were saying the hissy fit and the ego and this kind of thing. And I'm wondering, you know, we've had a few little detours, some not planned, you know, many, not most not planned, a few that were abrupt. And I'm wondering the energies that feel like they're losing something.
Yes, it's why
The
they're
egoic.
grasping at straws is what I just heard.
So they're the egoic energies. They're the unconscious. And I'm trying to kind of understand the energies at play, because this is more than just a, you know, internal struggle, a day-to-day internal struggle where we can meditate and bring it to balance. Some of these energies are huge.
Yes.
They're very large.
I just heard not conducive to spiritual growth.
No, definitely not. So it's interesting how some of the, I guess what I'm trying to say is I noticed that some of the larger energies that must be the representation of the more of the egoic.
Yes.
Might feel things slipping away, lose the loss of power. The ones that are some of these large energies, some of these things that are really impacting and really causing a level of distress, discomfort, maybe some of the suicidal things that are happening, the raging, these energies are reacting in such a way that it's pushing this energy through our physical vessel.
Yes.
So the human is having to feel this. And so I guess, oh, how funny. I just got a little thing that says birth in the organic template. I'm keep moving these notices out of the way and that just popped down. So it makes me wonder on a larger scale, you know, I'm not trying to bash any energies either. I don't want it to come across that way, but I'm almost wondering what energies are these at play? The egoic, the kind of false, the ones who have been able to play like they're the ones in control, like the ego does.
Right.
Is it the energy of the sun and moon that I keep seeing kind of getting swiped to the side?
Okay, so I'm getting a lot as you're talking. I'm getting it's more like this is going to sound weird. It's like, I don't want to say like a competition, but it's like those energies you're talking about. Okay, what they're showing is them coming in and trying to come in like this. Do you know what, like, here's your beautiful alignment of the energy of what we're talking about, yes. What we want. But these others energies will come in and it's like almost like getting a punch in the face and then they align. Do you know what I'm saying? And then they align.
Like a sucker punch is what it is, more than anything. It's a sucker punch.
Yes, exactly. And what I'm picking up, this is kind of speaks to a bit of what you said, just to kind of understand this. And I'm interested that these energies that you're talking about actually were created, think about this, manifested out of the ego losing its mind. So why there's so many people acting, well, for one reason, why so many people are acting out in their ego now, and you're seeing this strife, is because those energies live on that ego, that acting out of the ego. So what we actually, it's kind of like a cyclical thing. We actually created it as humankind back in the day when the ego got out of control. So we manifested these energies by our thought forms and our actions, right? So we manifest, we're creators. That's the whole thing. We're creators, we manifest. Well, we manifest ego. We manifested it to a point of what it was never intended to be. And now we have these energies swimming around. So, what they're saying is we're actually responsible for having created them.
Yes. That is the distorted creation that's how the story goes. This creation that Sophia, when she hit this other energy and threw off creations, like she didn't really mean to do it. And out of that creation came the demigod, which is the ego, right? The God who thinks there's no other God above him, doesn't realize, you know, he was created as well, right?
Yeah, because we each have to one degree or another, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And you and I have even had this conversation that I was explaining to you, this channeled kind of conversation I had with a demigod or a masculine energy who was claiming to be, you know, the creator. Do you remember this? This was, and I asked him, I was talking to him about who I am and where I'm from and how, my experience here. And he didn't know what Gaia was. It hadn't been created yet in the time space that we were having this conversation, apparently. Mm-hmm. And I asked him if he's the creator of all things, then how does he explain me? And he says, I cannot. So this was one of I think there's probably many demigods who don't realize there is more than them.
Yeah.
And that is the definition of the ego, is it not?
Totally. They're all, because it's a very, they just said the word insular perspective. That's like, you are all there is. Ego is all there is. Does that make sense? Like there's no looking outside of.
And that's a distortion. That is the distortion of the creation without the balanced energy, with masculine, feminine.
Masculine, feminine. See, this is good. We're tying this together because there's so many disparate pieces in this whole journey, right? Like, I mean, literally, like Shannon said, it's convoluted. Well, I'm so glad we're able to take the pieces we've gotten and we've tied it together.
Kind of tie some of these together. Yeah, there's so much metaphoric examples. So it adds to the amount of knowledge or the amount of things that there are to hear, but many of them are speaking to the same energy. They're just doing it in several different metaphoric ways for understanding, or even through their own interpretation, right?
Yep.
So, but a lot of times, a lot of these stories, the story might be different. Nuances, details might change, but I always find there is a central theme to them that is trying to explain the imbalance that occurred and the rebalance that is necessary.
Yep.
So but that is basically the creation of ego, was the imbalanced creation of.
So to kind of, and I think we're at a place we can wrap this topic up. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay, because just to kind of summarize, is what I'm getting is the reason we're talking about this is what's happening this weekend. Oh, they just said kicks off all of this in a more powerful way, to the point where we're going to see those energies flow in to create that greater balance, to bring those twins. And I think they're talking about, in many cases, the union, physical, 3D mission, because there's power in them coming together and leading that way forward. But we're going to see that after this weekend start gradually moving into manifestation.
Yes. We're going to see the results of a balanced masculine and feminine, and how that manifests our dream, the idea, how the dream is then manifest.
Earth. Because this is how we're going to create the new earth. We cannot, and I'm saying this for the first time, we can't create the new earth without the balance. And I know balance has always been important in the conversations I've always had in my videos, but it's bringing that balance back in, and then we start being able to manifest out of that. Because if you're manifesting, and I'm talking collectively, right? If you manifest out of imbalance, well, you get what we've got now, or,
distortion.
So, wow, this is such a good conversation.
I do want to say just a couple of things about how it will manifest. I don't think it'll be the same for everybody, and I think you'll agree with this, but much of it will be a manifestation into like an actual partner. Some will hold both energies within their own embodiment. But that's not necessarily something that's set in stone, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because of the pure, what we're talking about, the pure fact that these energies are coming back into alignment. There is no limit to how it manifests. At that point, you are a master manifester. You're a perfectly balanced creator. You can have it manifest any way you want at that point, right? So it can, you're like, oh, am I ever going to have a part? Well, once those energies come together, the sky's the limit.
Right, exactly. And so, what we don't want to leave everybody thinking is that, they're
waiting for their twin to show up,
their partner or their twin, or because not everybody has a twin, and you don't want to necessarily have a twin. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, anyway, point is there's that group that will, but it's not about partnering with someone. It's about you balance. Ultimately, collectively, it's about you within yourself balancing. It's all an inside job, as we talked about, not waiting for the one. So we don't want to do that kind of thing. But what will happen is there will be alignment with some who are meant to align.
Some will, yes.
Exactly. And with that alignment within ourselves individually. Yes.
And the satisfaction of just having the embodiment of your own alignment is, but that in itself will be such a satisfying feeling. I think a lot of the energy that propels the desire to have your partner here will be satisfied within that.
Absolutely. And I think that's what people don't really understand, because we've been taught to look for the other half that completes us. That's not it. We complete ourselves. And then there's not that dying need to go search for someone. And that takes you down a whole nother rabbit hole, right? But it will align if it's meant to. And again, this conversation we've had today is not about finding the one. This is about the energetic, divine feminine energetics within each of us individually, first and foremost, and then those who are meant to align with another.
Right. And I'm not bashing that either, but you look at our society, the dating apps, the look, it's a search. It's the underlying theme of almost everything is trying to find that one.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's actually what is driving us to wake up to the remembrance that something is not balanced.
Yes.
So it's not, I don't look at it like, oh, look at the pathetic state of humanity. We're all searching for. That's not right. That was a tool for us. That was here to help us remember there's an internal balance that needs to be achieved.
Exactly.
So yeah, I believe that and it can manifest in many ways, but every way, when you're in balance, it'll manifest in the way that's perfect for you.
Yep.
However that is,
Wow, this is so interesting that we've touched on, it's just all was supposed to happen, for this weekend and what's coming up. So this will be great. So
I think it's going to be nice. Yeah,
exactly.
So I'm excited to see. Let's always, sit back and my team always quit, fretting, kick back. You need to kick back and enjoy the show. And I'm like, how can I do that?
That's the thing. Honestly, when we sit and look at this journey, the concepts are pretty simple. It's the getting the human out of the way to be able to just allow it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation that we had today. It really was pretty robust. We've got a couple other topics. We're going to start doing other videos together. I think we will really be able to hit on some, I guess what I would say is topics that we both resonate on and get the same information, but we get it differently. We see it differently, and sometimes we experience it differently, but it's the same thing. So I think this will be a fascinating journey with Jennifer moving forward. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, check out purplerainhealing.com for all of my services. I channel in all of them, and you can either add distance energy healing to them. You can pick the spiritual awakening mentoring, where I actually mentor you through your life journey as things come up. As we know, in this awakening ascension journey, so much changes so fast, and we're going to have a rampant acceleration moving forward through the rest of the year is really what we're picking up on. So if you're looking for some assistance during your journey or just some clarification on some things, so check out my services, purplerainhealing.com. I would absolutely love to work with you. I offer all kinds of services of channeling that will help you in your life journey forward. Again, thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I will see you in the next one.